everyone. It's Isaac Mark.
Come over here. So this nice looking shrub is Arctostaphylos virgata. And it's a pretty narrow endemic to this area. It's found in Point Reyes and Mount Tam. And it's one of two species of Arctostaphylos that we'll see on the hike today. And it is the fifth manzanita that we're learning so far in the class. So of the ones we've learned before, this one stands out for a couple characters. First, you know it's a manzanita because it has this kind of naked red bark, right? And it has these leathery leaves that are all kind of, they're alternate, they're simple, and they're arranged in spirals on the stems. Arctostaphylos virgata is recognizable among the other species that we learned because the leaves are a distinctive shape. They're skinny and long, and they come to a point. And they're all kind of clustered on the branches like this, almost like they're all overlapping each other on the ends of the branches. And also, it may be difficult to see in the video, but if you look, the color of the plant is kind of like a yellowish green. It's not as bluish or silvery as many of the other manzanitas we've learned. And the fruits, which are here, there's some I see, are not huge like in big berry manzanita, Arctostaphylos glauca, which we learned. They're kind of the regular manzanita shape, sort of squat little apples, manzanitas. Another character that people use that you can look for is that the inflorescences on manzanitas at this time of year, they start to emerge out of the stems and they kind of hang down like an elephant's trunk. But in this particular species, they're nascent, which means that they're kind of buried inside of the stems still. But you can compare that to other species. That's a character that you can use. And if you look closely at the branches and the stems, you'll see that the leaves, see if you can see this, have little spreading hairs around the base, along the margins. And those little spreading hairs, they have little glands on them. They're kind of sticky. And they run down the stems of the shrub. So if you come in here, you may not. If you come in here and you kind of grab the branchlets, so like the skinny stems towards the outside of the plant, they'll be covered in those little glandular hairs and they'll be slightly sticky, or you'll just see that they have a lot of dust and other materials stuck to them. So when you're getting deep into manzanitas, you really have to hone in on some of these features that you're gonna have to get close and look at them. I don't know if, oh, careful, Paul. I don't know if we've talked about this before, but also when you're here, feel the bark of these things. The Arctostaphylos, the manzanitas, and also arbutus, they have these naked red stems. And when we were kids, we used to call them refrigerator trees because even at the heat of the day, they'll be like nice and cold. They don't have insulating bark, holding them in. Okay, so that's Arctostaphylos virgata. And just to review, it's a shrublet like this, and I didn't say this before, but it doesn't have a burl, that useful character. It has kind of yellowish green leaves that are skinny and long and have an acute pointy tip. They have spreading hairs along the base, and they're clustered in overlapping clusters. Okay, so over here is the other Arctostaphylos that we'll learn today. This is Arctostaphylos glandulosus, subspecies Cushingiana. And this species, Arctostaphylos glandulosa, is a burl former. So they have that important ecological difference. And remember that the burl is this adaptation that allows them to burn up and then resprout from the base. So along with that, this burl forming species is really widespread in California. It's found throughout most of the coastal California down to the Southern California mountains. and it's common in a lot of the environments where fire is common too, but it's very variable. So sometimes the plant has long hairs, sometimes it doesn't, sometimes it has short hairs of a certain type, and sometimes it doesn't, and the leaf shape can be variable. But a few characters you can hone in on in this area to distinguish it from virgata are that the leaves are not overlapping or clustered on the stems. They're more spread out, that they are comparatively rounder in shape, and they don't have very sharp points, although you should look at a lot of different leaves. You shouldn't just look at one particular leaf when trying to decide what species you're looking at. And then if you look close at the leaf, it's covered in these tiny, very tiny little white hairs that are kind of like a little fuzz on the leaf. They're not long spreading hairs. They're small, white, little silvery hairs. Like I don't know, like they just started growing or something like that. The inflorescences, although this is not always a reliable trait, is something else you can hone in on. You can see them. They're more of like a classic manzanita at this time of year. They're emerging from the branches and they're kind of hanging down like an elephant's trunk. There it is. And soon they'll start flowering. And they have the classic Ericaceae flower of a little white urn-shaped thing. And so it's kind of interesting to think they have this ecological difference, and there's something to be said there about it. When you're a burl resprouter, you can imagine your generation time is a lot longer. That burl stays in the ground for a long time, and you're able to kind of spread out. Whereas these manzanitas that resprout from seeds that are stimulated by fire, they come up after fire, and they may not have that same adaptation to spread out through huge differences. So their different geographic range and their different ecological characteristics have a role here, which might contribute to the relative success and diversity in California. What do you think? Anything?
That's good.
Great.
Maybe just the mention again that these guys have really small, kind of stiff white hairs on the stem, compared to the other guy that has those sticky, longer hairs.
Sure. Yeah. Here, pass it to you. I'll get a good look. Here's the. Check out the stiff white hairs. Ooh. It's like a fuzz. And we'll do a comparison. Going back to Arctostaphylos virgata here. And it's like long glandular hairs. They're often covered in a little goo. There you go.